The Bastard Prince of Versailles. Fade in. Exterior Palace Courtyard, day, 1680. Two royal soldiers guard the entrance of a sumptuous palace with ornate windows. Puny, freckle-faced Count Louis of Vermandois, 16, with shoulder-length hair and wearing tights and a satin jacket with a gold medallion, approaches the palace steps with his young page. Louis's half-brother and heir to the throne, the muscular Dauphin Louis of France, in his early 20s and in military attire, arrives with two well-dressed pages. The Dauphin blocks Louis from entering.
Bastard princes use their servants' entrance.
Louis backs up, and the Dauphin's pages chuckle.
I'm the king's son, too.
Then why don't you live at court? Caught practicing the Italian vice, were you?
Louis's face reddens.
I am still an heir to my father's throne.
After me. My mother is the Queen of France.
The Dauphin moves forward and fillips Louis's ear.
Your mother was just one of the king's whores.
Louis's lips tighten, and he punches the Dauphin in the face. The Dauphin, dazed, loses his balance. His pages leap forward, but he motions them back.
Guards, arrest this dolt.
Louis struggles as the guards take him away. The Dauphin and his pages, snickering, enter the palace. Interior, throne room, day. The sun's rays stream through the windows into the marble-floored room with gilded furnishings and walls decorated with battle scenes. The stern-looking King Louis XIV, 42, and his somber Queen Maria Theresa, 36, sit on their thrones in regal attire. Count Louis, with two jailers behind him, enters slowly and stops a few paces in front of the dais. Looking down, he fidgets with the hem of his jacket.
Closer.
The guards nudge Louis closer. The Queen taps her fingers on the arm of her throne. The Dauphin arrives and stands a few paces from Louis.
Count Louis, the punishment for striking a prince of the blood is...
Death by hanging. For buggery, too.
Louis looks to the floor.
He called my mother a whore.
Striking the Dauphin was a grave offense. But then, you are my son.
The Queen sighs and looks away, annoying the king.
Unlike a king, madame, a father must always show mercy.
Louis bows with humility, which softens the king's frown.
You shall join the army, Count Louis.
Not expecting punishment, Louis sighs softly and his gaze drops to the floor.
The army always needs cooks.
The king gives the Dauphin a menacing look.
Silence!
The Dauphin smirks and cracks his knuckles.
Why so lenient? Send him to the far end of your realm.
Madame, his mother was an official mistress, and he was legitimized by the age of 2. He is an heir.
Only after our son. Unless I bear you another one.
Louis takes a step forward.
Sire, I humbly obey your orders.
The Queen stands, approaches Louis, and snatches the gold medallion from his jacket.
Your Majesty?
You don't need this any longer.
Queen turns to the Dauphin and pins the medallion on his sash.
And good riddance, son.
She curtsies to the king and walks to the door. Halfway, she turns with clenched jaws and points to Louis.
The sight of him, sire, only reminds me of that vile woman.
She turns and exits. Interior council room, night. The king, 3 ministers, the Dauphin, and the king's military advisor, Duke of Orleans, 50, lean over a large table covered with maps and miniature troops in battle lines.
We must move quickly.
Who will lead this sector, your Majesty?
My son, the Dauphin.
The ministers all nod with approval. The Dauphin beams with joy.
I am honored, your Majesty.
You have an opportunity to make your merit known to all of Europe.
The Dauphin bows deeply.
And Count Louis? Would he not benefit from our siege, sire?
The king casts a glance at the Duke, who remains silent. Interior King's Chambers, night. Louis kneels in front of the king in the candlelight.
I will earn back my father's good graces.
Louis stands and bows deeply.
On my honor, sire.
Exterior battlefield, dawn. On a hillside overlooking a bridge, Louis, with 3 officers, wait on horseback in front of their troops. All wear padded leather shirts and carry pikes. The enemy on the other side of the river raises its banners and charges across the bridge on foot. The Dauphin, in a wide-brimmed hat with feathers, moves in front of the troops on his fidgety horse.
Hold. Hold. Hold steady.
Once the enemy has crossed the bridge, the Dauphin raises his arm.
Charge!
The Dauphin leads the troops down the hill. There is complete chaos, with screams of dying men and falling horses. Louis is struck on the head and falls from his horse. The Dauphin sees him fall.
Son of a whore, already! Count Louis is injured. Go to him.
When Louis sees the disdain on the Dauphin's face, he pulls himself together, stands, and mounts his horse. The Dauphin catches a glimpse of Louis breaking ranks, charging the enemy, and cutting down a soldier. Interior tent day. The sun shines through the large tent's open flap. There are sounds of battle in the background. Louis, in a nightshirt with a bandage around his head, opens his eyes to see the Duke of Orleans standing over him.
The time?
Louis tries to get up, but the Duke holds him down.
You need the rest, my prince.
The Duke looks at the back of Louis's head.
That's quite a souvenir there.
Louis pushes the Duke's hand away. Though wobbly, he gets up and grabs his breeches. The Dauphin arrives, and the Duke bows.
Your Royal Highness?
The Dauphin nods, and he turns to Louis, who is pulling up his breeches.
I have new orders for you, Count Louis.
Louis pulls up his suspenders and stands at attention.
You will lead a regiment to the marshland to counter a new advance.
Your Highness, Count Louis is...
Living and breathing, we need all able soldiers for this campaign. Can you continue, Louis?
Yes, Your Highness.
Someone outside the tent calls to the Dauphin. He exits. The Duke, frowning, hands Louis his jacket.
Louis, when your mother took up the veil, I promised to watch over you.
You know how important this is.
The Duke nods and hands Louis his hat. Exterior battlefield day. Soldiers struggle to fight in the marsh, with many falling to the sounds of muskets. The Dauphin's assistant scans the battle from a hilltop with his spyglass and, pointing, hands it to the Dauphin. The Dauphin watches as Louis charges the enemy with a wave of his troops. He returns the spyglass with a grin.
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Exterior battlefield night. Battle sounds nearby. Soldiers fill their canteens with marsh water. Some drink from small flasks of brandy. Exterior battlefield morning. Battle sounds closer. A soldier gives war-wearied Louis, propped up against a tree, a flask.
Brandy, Your Highness.
Louis drinks and gulps. Interior tent night. Muffled cannon fire in the distance. 2 soldiers carry Louis into his tent on a stretcher. The Duke follows them.
On the cot, quick!
Louis is delirious as the Duke unbuttons his jacket.
Attacking the flank. The right flank.
The Dauphin arrives, looks at Louis, and then at the Duke.
Dysentery, Your Highness. 2 days without fresh water.
The Dauphin's brow wrinkles, and he approaches Louis.
With only brandy to drink, his blood is most likely poisoned.
The Dauphin sits next to Louis on his cot. Louis opens his eyes and squints to focus on him.
The battle?
The enemy retreated with their tails between their legs, Louis.
Louis's expression turns serene. The Dauphin puts the gold medallion in Louis's hand.
Now rest. We'll soon lead the king's army, side by side.
Like brothers.
Louis closes his eyes.
Like brothers.
The Dauphin casts a concerned look at the Duke, and the Duke shakes his head.
The physician's been summoned.
Interior throne room day. The Duke has an audience with the king, who sits on the edge of his throne.
And the casualties?
The first day 1,000 fell, sire, but many fewer thereafter.
I heard Count Louis fared well on the battlefield.
Yes, sire. He proved himself an able soldier, even when very ill.
The Queen arrives with a page, who helps her up the dice.
Our campaign was successful without the losses we anticipated.
A celebration is in order?
The Duke steps forward.
Your Majesty, if I may.
The king raises his eyebrows and nods.
I am the messenger of the most unfortunate tidings too, sire.
There is a pause as the Duke gathers his thoughts.
Duke?
Count Louis has died.
The Duke presents the king with Louis's medallion. The king pauses for a split second, then takes it.
The Count fought with valor, sire. His only hope was to win back the king's esteem.
The king waves the Duke away dismissively. The audience is over, but the Duke, speechless, remains standing.
You are dismissed, Duke. And let us hear no more of the bastard.
Red-faced, the king rises.
Madame, your dislike of the other royal children is well known.
He looks at the medallion and places it in his robe.
Be warned. Never speak of any of them again in my presence.
She sits motionless as the king exits. Interior, monastery, hallway, night. The Mother Superior opens an iron door for the king to enter a small, candlelit cell with a crucifix on the wall. Interior cell, night. A small framed nun, 36, sits on a meager bed mending clothes. The king approaches her, but she doesn't flinch.
Sister Louise.
Queen retires early these days, Your Majesty?
I've come to tell you, our son has died on the battlefield.
She solemnly puts the mending in her lap.
He died courageously.
The nun looks directly at the king.
I should weep for the poor child's birth more than his death.
The king pulls Louis' gold medallion from his pocket and hands it to her, but she doesn't take it.
We gave him this heirloom when you entered the convent.
I entered the convent with abhorrence of my affair with the King of France.
The nun picks up and resumes her handiwork.
And I'm still amending for my ways.
The king, wordless, exits the cell. Interior, monastery, hallway, night. The king walks down a dismal hallway lit by torches hanging on the wall. He takes Louis' medallion from his pocket, looks at it for a moment, and then holds it to his chest. A single tear rolls down his cheek. Fade out.